Hello and welcome back to the Michigan State University Wealth Management Association podcast. This week we have the Managing Director of Modern Wealth Management, Ken Osiwala, joining us on the podcast. We hope you enjoy.
Hello and welcome back to the Michigan State Wealth Management Association podcast. Today we have Ken Osiwala, Managing Director for Modern Wealth Management, and I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks for having me on the show, Garrett. It's just awesome to be here, part of Michigan State. And my name is Ken Osiwala. Like you said, I'm the Managing Director for Modern Wealth in the Troy, Michigan office here. And thanks again for having me on.
Absolutely. So to start it off, can you walk us through your journey of becoming a financial advisor?
Sure, I'd be happy to. My dad always was involved with insurance and did a little bit of financial planning and some investments, but he primarily was an insurance guy. But for some reason, I always had an attraction to it. And I knew when I was in high school that that's what I wanted to do. So I started actually getting my licenses when I was in high school, and my dad helped me with that. When I graduated from college, he pretty much said, "Nah, you need to go get a job somewhere else before you come to work here." So I went and worked for a CPA firm for a couple of years. He told me the best degree back then. They didn't have finance degrees and stuff like that, like they have today. He told me, man, the best degree you could get would be a degree in accounting, because there's so much tax and accounting that goes on with financial planning that that's what he recommended. So I did that, worked for a big firm. Some people probably know it was called Ernst & Young, big CPA firm. Did that for a few years. And then when I was done with that, my dad was telling me, "Hey, you're working so hard. If you work as hard as you're working today in this business, you could be successful." So I started selling insurance with my dad, life insurance, and he was showing me how to do it. But I didn't know anything about something called the Registered Investment Advisory Firm. This is back in 1990. I mean, we barely had computers and cell phones back then. I mean, it was a long time ago. I mean, to date it a little bit, Garrett, my computer was black and white. It didn't have a color screen. If you wanted one that had a color screen, it was $5,000 back in those days. So that's a lot of money today, but it's even a lot more money back in the early 90s. So, but yeah, that's how I got in. And then I started learning about this thing called the Registered Investment Advisor. And I said, geez, that's what I really want to do, is be able to charge a fee and manage money for people and not necessarily earn a commission on something. So that's how I kind of got started.
That's amazing to hear. So with the RIA, how do you uphold that standard of being a fiduciary to your clients?
How you uphold it is, I mean, the scary thing is most financial advisors will tell you that they're a fiduciary. I sometimes I question that, because when you earn a commission on something, you have to second guess yourself. Is this in my best interest of the clients? So typically we uphold it by telling them we're fee only, and we really don't sell any product to solve any solutions that have commissions. Every once in a while, there's something that you have to use that's the only way you can place it. And so I justify that, but 99% of our revenue, like literally 98 or 99% of our revenue, comes from fees, because we just don't want to be in that spot where we're doing something that's in our best interest and not the clients.
Absolutely. So looking back on your early career, was there any experience that really shaped the man who you are today?
Um, I guess my background in accounting and that type of thing kind of really was the foundation, because for me, and I would tell your listeners that aren't going into accounting, that you don't have to have an accounting degree, but mine was always I was always intrigued by the tax play. And when you really think about investments, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And taxes are a really integral part in the financial planning process. And when I got into the business, I thought everybody was doing it the right way. And what I found is people don't necessarily do it the right way. They just put plans together and put a portfolio together and give it to a client and tell them that they're doing financial management for them or financial planning for them. And sometimes I beg to differ on that because they're missing a lot of pieces. The financial plan, Garrett, is not the investment portfolio. The financial plan is everything.
With that, what does the first meeting look like when you sit a client down for the first time? And I know it's hard to get into that conversation about finances. How do you open that gate initially?
Well, there's nine times out of 10, somebody's coming to our office or called with an interest. They might be concerned about, what Social Security strategy do they take? They might be concerned, do they have enough money to retire? They might be concerned on where do they pull their money out of, like on a monthly basis to replace their income. They could be coming with a host of different concerns. So the first thing that we want to do with a prospective client is just to ask them, what is important to you? What do you value? And more times than not, they're like, what do you mean by that question? I came to talk to you about my investments. And say, well, let's take your investments. I'd like to kind of position it this way. Let's take your investments, put them off to the side, and let's not even talk about them. If you had to reverse engineer your life and how you really wanted to have it laid out, tell me what it looks like. So if you're 60 years old, you're 65, maybe you're 50 years old, I don't know. But you're going to live till 90, 95, whatever age that you think you're going to live to. Let's start at 95 and work backwards. Tell me what that looks like. You got kids? How about grandkids? How much time are you spending with them? What are you going to do with them? What are you going to travel? Do you want to travel with your grandchildren, or are you going to just go with your spouse? Those types of questions is the things that I would ask. Do you want to leave any money behind? Do you want to help out charities? It's the easiest way for me to explain it to you is when people go to Home Depot to buy materials to do a home project, like putting a deck on the back of their house, they don't ever walk into the lumber desk and say, I'm putting a deck on the back of my house, and I'm just going to go ahead and I need some 2x4, some 2x6s, a couple bolts, a whole box of screws, and a few other things. And the lumber desk guy is going to say, well, what is it you're trying to do? Oh, I'm putting a deck on the back. And next question out of his mouth is going to be, you got some plans? And the guy's like, no, I'm a weekend warrior. I'm going to go ahead and just build this thing. I'm going to set it up out there. I'll get this stuff delivered. We'll start building it. But yet you have no plans. No, I have no plans at all. Nobody would ever do that. They would sketch it out. Okay, this deck is going to be 20 by 30. It's going to be, square or rectangular or whatever. And they would know how many posts, how far away they are, etc. Same thing with your financial life. You should know every little piece of what's going on inside of your financial life because it's all integrated and coordinated together. And if you don't have a plan, a blueprint, if you will, I call it a financial blueprint. If you don't have that, you can't really make good judgments on what you should be doing. You can't make a good call on how to even allocate your funds inside of your portfolio. If there's any listeners out there that are actually using a financial advisor, first thing they should ask you is, where's your plan at? If they don't ask you that question or don't talk to you about putting together a plan first, you should run the other direction because you need to have a plan. Because the plan will tell you how to allocate your assets based on where your objectives are, what you're trying to get done.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear. And that's one of the, for the viewers, Ken has been a mentor for me for about the last 2 years. And that financial blueprint has been one of my favorite things I've ever learned. And it really has changed the way I've seen wealth management.
Yep. Yeah. I think that's a big part. And you need to have, if you're interviewing somebody out there or somebody was interviewing, to hire somebody, I would know some of the questions to the answers before you talk to somebody, but test them, see what they say. And if they're just out there to sell you on their services or sell you on how they have the best secret sauce out there, you don't want to necessarily believe them on that because they're probably just trying to sell you something. You really need to find out what you value and what's important to you and start there.
Absolutely. So, Ken, within my years of in college, even later in high school, we've seen AI come into part. How do you see the role of a financial advisor changing in the future, and do you think it will be affected by AI?
If you're doing, that's a great question. If you're doing what I'm talking about doing, I'm not sure AI will be able to take that human element away. I think AI will only enhance financial advisors. It will give them more tools, more efficiencies with inside the office. But I don't think that I could be wrong, 2 or 3 years from now, maybe this will be way different. But right now, I think AI is going to be a tool that we could use that would actually make our ability to serve clients more efficient. As far as the client going to AI and replacing a financial advisor with AI, if it was solely strictly on portfolio management and that's all the person was doing, possibly, yes. But again, I think I call it the ripple effect. When you're walking through the woods on a calm Michigan day, no wind, and you come upon a pond and it's like glass, and you throw a rock or stick in that pond, and there's a splash that occurs, and then these little ripples come out, and then they hit the bank and they kind of come back in. That's the same thing that I tell people when it comes to their finances. When you make a financial move, a financial transaction, you think it's just one dimensional. It's not. It's like a 3D transaction. It's hitting other things that you might not even know about, because all financial decisions lead back to the tax return. So if you're
Hmm.
not factoring that whole plan in, you're missing a boat. I mean, you are. So AI can do some of that, but when you parlay that, I call that the math part. But the life part, the human interaction part, is going to be really difficult. So there's life and math. Math is easy. I could tell you, to give an example what I mean by life and math. You could say, Ken, I have a problem, and the problem is I don't know if I should pay my mortgage off. And I said, Garrett, well, tell me a little bit about that. Well, my mortgage interest rate is only 5%. I got this portfolio over here. It's making 8%. It seems like I should not pay it off because there's a 3% spread between the two of them. And I tell you, Garrett, and again, I'm cutting to a chase because I know you got other questions you want to ask me, but I just kind of drilling down so you get what I'm talking about the life and the math piece. Life is different than math. Mathematically, I would tell you, for sure, do not pay it off. You're making 8%, 9%, 10% on your portfolio, and your interest rate on your mortgage is only 4 or 5%. Why would you pay it off? It doesn't make sense. But the life part says, I don't want to be in debt.
Hmm.
I have a house that I closed the door to the rest of the world. That's my safe place. That's my spot where this is an investment. This is not an investment piece of property. It's something that where my family lives. I have birthday parties here. I have Christmases and graduations and weddings and funerals and all the things that are important to me, and all the memories that I'm creating are in my house. I would never tell somebody to put that asset at risk. Okay. So
Absolutely.
that's the life and the math part. So there's a lot of decisions that I ask. Is this a life question or is this a math question?
Mm. And I feel like that's a excellent answer to the question. Especially they've had robo advisors in the past and they failed terribly because the emotional and psychological behavior, the AI can never replicate that with the human connection. I feel like that's a very important aspect of wealth management and really what drew me into this as a career field.
Yeah. I mean, that's the part that I love. If you ask the question, Ken, what's your most favorite part of what you do? That's 100% having one-on-one. We call them belly to belly, eyeball to eyeball meetings with clients, where we're just sitting across the desk talking and helping them navigate their life. And I just think that's such a important piece. And again, for the people that are listening, again, I think there's a two, three, four, five maybe important things in a person's life: their health, taking care of yourself, your family, your creator. People different views on that, but your creator, and then your money. And I think out of all of the jobs that I could have, my job, I'm in the top 4 of the most important things in a person's life. I take it really, really seriously, because I'm going to help them create the memories. I'm going to help them create true wealth. We use this term in our office called true wealth is defined as things that money can't buy and death can't take away. Doesn't matter how many millions of dollars a guy or a gal or a family has. That's not their wealth. The wealth is that's just the tool that allows them to have the wealth, that allows them to do the things that they value in life, like going fishing, like we were talking about before we got on air, fishing in the Florida Keys. I mean, enjoyment and creating the memories that you and your buddy had when you guys went down there. Those are the things that's the wealth of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Ken, that's my absolute all-time favorite quote of yours. And I remember listening to a podcast, it would have been 2 years ago, before I really knew about wealth management. And I heard you say that, and I wrote it down in my phone notes. And that has really stuck with me for the last 2 years. And I know it will continue to stick with me every time I think about helping a client. And what really is important to them is family and health, as compared to money can't buy happiness. It's only a revenue source to do in life what you want to do that's fulfilling.
If money bought happiness, Hollywood would be the happiest place on earth. And I don't think it is.
I don't either.
You know, and I honestly think our careers, the folks that are going into financial advising and helping people on a one-on-one basis like we do, you have, I'm very biased, and you know, I'd be a liar if I told you I wasn't, but I think we have the best job, the best career. No one has a better career than what you're going after. By far, coolest job on the planet. Now I know other people would think engineering's great, or nursing, or doctors, whatever. I just think our job is great.
I absolutely agree. So, especially within our meetings, we talk about the demand for young advisors. And I know the industry I think the average age is almost 63 to 65 around there, and a lot of them are retiring. Do you see this as a challenge for the industry? And then how should the industry overcome this?
Well, I think that's a great question. I'd like to just give you some of my real live experience. 10 years ago, nobody even was going after internships. I barely had anybody ask me about internship. Today, we have a plethora and a litany of college students contacting our firm, wanting an internship because they want to get involved and they want to have that one, what would be the word, that one unfair advantage against their peer group of getting hired. So they want to have that internship. But yes, to me, getting involved with a firm as soon as possible would be great. I forget what the question was.
Do you think the industry needs to address this problem with advisors moving out and then not enough new people coming into it?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any like easy solution to it. The answer is yes, you're right. I don't know if it's 60 or 63 or where that statistic came from, but I heard it years ago that it was in the 50s. So maybe you're probably right, because I heard it years ago, and now it's probably in the 60s, because people get fat and sassy as their careers get, more mature, and they have a large income, and they just are happy, and they don't want to, plan an exit strategy. If they were planning an exit strategy, they could be cultivating relationships that possibly could have younger folks coming up through. Right now, the mergers and acquisitions on RIA firms is just gigantic. So there's a lot of firms being bought up right now. We sold our firm 3 years ago, April of 2023. So we're coming up on our 3rd year anniversary. But we were the founding firm of Modern Wealth 3 years ago. My firm, there's 3 of us: Michigan, Kansas, and Missouri. Those 3 offices came together. We had been friends for 20 years, and partnered with another group of folks that, kind of addressing the problem that you're saying, because one, there's another problem is fee compression and technology that's coming up. Because so if a person is charging a 1% fee to manage a portfolio, as an example, there's going to be some competitive things coming down the road where you might need to do that for 25% less, and to stay competitive in the industry. So there's that issue. There's a lot of issues that are stressing the industry right now. One is what you're talking about, the aging of it, but also planned obsolescence and the technological change that's happening inside of the industry is it's real.
With that, do you think it's a good thing that these private equity firms are coming in and kind of conglomerating wealth management firms into bigger organizations?
Well, I don't know about it overall, because to try to put them all in one category, I think might be just averaging things out, and what averages aren't truthful and everything. In our particular situation, when we put our firms together and bought some more firms, it's been great. We have more services, more technology, more. As an example, we started buying CPA firms as well. So we have a whole tax department, not just a investment side. We have a whole in-house investment team, in-house tax team. We have an estate planning team, risk management. So those things, it's really tough for a 1 or 2 or 5-man shop, 10-man shop to do that. Today our firm's growing. We have over 250 employees now in 17 different states. It'd be tough for a mom and pop shop down the street to compete with us, because we have so much competitive advantage as far as tools at our fingertips to use.
Absolutely. And then kind of moving forward, I know a lot of the people listening to this podcast are students. What early skills should people be developing to have a successful career in financial advising?
I think your people skills are, I call it the art and the science. The science part is the math part. We talked about math and life before. Well, this is art and science. So the science part is going to be easy, and the science part is taking 1 to not even 1, probably 3 to 5 years to really understand. And if you're working for a firm and you're getting advice, and not advice but experience, and you're in meetings, you're putting plans together, you're getting objections, you're putting out fires and problems and issues. That's the science. And you can't get that at school per se. You got to get that when you're on the front line, day-to-day transactions, day-to-day telephone calls, and in meetings with clients. After about 3 to 5 years, you're going to have that part down pretty well. You're going to see there'll be enough time to have enough experience behind you to be able to handle just about any problem. The part that takes forever, I've been in this business for over 30 years now, and the part that I never want to get complacent in is the art part. That's the art of communication. So you being able to read the client, you as an individual being able to ask the right questions to find out what the prospective client or the client wants or needs is super important, because people always want to tell them this is how you fix the problem. Well, you don't even know what the problem is. You think you know what the problem is. You think you know what you're trying to solve, but that doesn't mean that that's what's actually happening, because you might have heard something different. So we call it pain points, or drilling down and asking question after question to make sure I completely understand what that client's saying. I don't think you ever master that. So if you could be reading books or getting involved with training, any type of training classes or books on human communication and understanding and questioning, and I don't want to call it sales stuff, because we don't really want to be considered as a sales organization, although everybody's selling something. But that would be the number one thing that I would say get involved with as soon as possible, because that would be priceless.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. I know personally, one of my favorite books is The Psychology of Money, and that's all about human behavior and how our minds really process the importance of money,
Yep.
especially the big difference between like physical and, digital currency. And knowing that knowledge really does help me gauge how I'm going to interact with people and then go forward with difficult conversations.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then, Ken, you said you've been in this industry for over 30 years, which is longer than I've been alive by 10 years. But if you were to be 20 years ago or 20 years old in my shoes, sophomore in Michigan State, what would you do to really set yourself apart?
Um, to set myself apart, uh, so is this person that's 20, are they graduated yet, or are they still going to school?
Still pursuing their bachelor degree.
I would try to get an internship or work at some organization that was closely related to or directly related to the financial services industry. That would be the very first thing that I would do.
Hmm.
And then I would be doing my due diligence on what type of firm I'd want to work for. Again, I'm going to be biased here, so that's my disclaimer. But I would want to work for a firm that was 100% fee based, so that the client knows what they're getting and that there's no biasness. So if you're out there looking at a firm that earns commissions, I wouldn't say that's that's a deal killer, but it wouldn't be my long-term career
Hmm.
path.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot, especially I know the industry was a lot more commission based kind of when it originated, and then the fee base came along and that really took over like wildfire. And that's obviously a firm I want to pursue as an IRA. And
Yep.
then in your experience, what has really set apart a good advisor from a great advisor?
I think that's a great question. I think I kind of asked it already, but said it, but I'll spin it a little differently. A good advisor versus a great advisor is one that really finds out what the client values and what's important to them, and then builds the plan around what that client's telling them, rather than a one size fits all.
Hmm.
So Garrett, say you're married to Mary Beth. So there's Garrett and Mary Beth. Tell me, Mary Beth, before Garrett speaks, how do you see your life in the next 5, 10, 15 years? And she's going to run through that. And we're going to ask a lot of questions. And I'm going to say, Mary Beth, it's time for you to be mannequin woman. You got to be quiet, not say anything. I want to hear what Garrett's got to say. And then I want to hear you. And we have a series of questions that we would ask and go through that. And then what's funny is sometimes the husband and wife been married for 30, 40 years, and they're like, I didn't even know about that about you. That's the type of dialogue we want to have. So
Absolutely.
so deep that they walk away like, I don't know if this is marriage counseling or if this is financial advising, but I feel a lot better about where we're at. And that's what you want. That would
Yeah,
make you a great advisor.
and it always reminds me of the song Escape, about sipping pina coladas, where the husband and the wife, they've been together for 20 years and they never knew that about each other, and then they realign. And I feel like wealth management, you're almost as much a therapist as you are as a financial advisor, where you really do help people in their relationship building and longevity in a relationship.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. So another thing, I'm sure all you guys at MSU are, top shelf students. So you probably all already have Audible, but I would have some sort of audio book, and I would be looking into books that help you with this, developing this part of yourself and how to do that. And then I'd be practicing. I practice on your friends, your girlfriend, your family, and dialoguing and asking more questions and drawing more things out of people.
Hmm. And then, Ken, I'd like to kind of backtrack a little bit here. When you have a husband, wife, or anyone, and it's a very difficult conversation, and let's say no one's really meeting eye to eye on this, how do you resolve that conflict?
Um, you mean like one wants to do one thing and one wants to do something different?
Hmm.
To be honest with you, it doesn't happen too often. The biggest thing I'll see is a couple things. One will want, this is probably the biggest one. One will want to redo the kitchen, and one doesn't. So the wife wants the kitchen redone, and the husband's like, we can't afford that. that gets back to the Home Depot blueprint thing, because
Yep.
once you have that plan, boy, I can look at him and say, John, Mary Beth wants to have this kitchen done. Let's go back to some of the things we talked about. Tell me what the kitchen's going to cost. Well, the way she wants to do it, it's going to be $50,000. Like, well, let's put it in the plan and see what happens. So we put $50,000 expenditure in the plan, and it moves the needle by like a 1/10 of 1%.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of leaving the kids, $1.8 million, it leaves them $1.7 million or something like that. And I'm like, what kind of value can you put on having, an updated kitchen, having all your Christmas parties and all your Thanksgivings and all of your birthday parties and whatever things in this new kitchen, and your kids are still going to inherit a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
But yet you at that's where we say true wealth is defined as things that money can't buy and death can't take away. The wealth is not how much you're going to leave to your kids. We always tell people your kid, you want to give your wealth to your kids with warm hands or cold hands. And warm hands could be taking them on a trip. Warm hands could be creating a better environment in your backyard or in your kitchen to have more better family memories. And I can diffuse some pretty heated conversations by just get the art and the science part, getting that client to really just say, yeah, you're probably right. I'm probably being a knucklehead on that. And I'll give you an example. You care for a story?
Go for it.
True story. We had a guy who had this first dollar he ever saved. Both husband and wife were divorced and remarried. They both started out with nothing, early 40s. They came to us in their early 60s, so literally 20 years they've been married. They had about $1.6 million saved up, houses paid for, kids from both sides of the marriage. And crazy thing is, I asked them what was important and et cetera, et cetera. We started building out this plan like I explained to you how we did it. And their number one goal was to go up to Disney. And I said, well, how are you going to get your kids to go to Disney? And, you're going to have to write a check, pay for it all. He jerked in his chair. He's like, I can't afford that. We got to retire, blah, blah, blah. So long story short, this guy literally was the most, we have some ways, it take too long to go through it, but we have some tests and stuff that we run people through. And he scored the highest, what we call protection money mind. He was the guy that never wanted to spend a nickel.
Mm-hmm.
We showed him, he told us it'd be about 30 grand to take everybody to Disney the way that they wanted to do it, paying for their airfare, paying for a place to stay, paying for the tickets, paying for the food. The kids had no way that they were going to say, no, I'm not going. And I tell it like that because, there would be an excuse. Well, we don't have the vacation time. We don't have enough money. We don't have this. Listen, we're going to take all of those objections away. We want our family together.
Mm-hmm.
So this couple did this. They did the trip. 1 year later, this is a true story. 1 year later, the 42-year-old daughter came to my clients, this was their parents, and said, I got bad news, I got cancer. And the cancer spread really fast, and a year later, she died. And those people were in my office, literally, really emotional, as you could imagine, thanking a guy like me who showed them where they could do that and it wouldn't impact their financial plan. And to me, true example, a fantastic example of what true wealth really is. And I'm proud. I mean, I told that story without getting teared up and a lump in my throat, but a lot of times I do it and I have a tough time getting through the story because it's a real one. And those people would have never had that without somebody. If you were just at some brokerage place selling an investment portfolio, they would have never did that trip.
Yeah, that's very impactful, Ken. That's amazing to hear. I feel like especially we've seen the baby boomer generation being born after the Great Depression, where I know my grandparents, afraid to spend money, and being able to break down those barriers and kind of years of like training as they were young with saving money to kind of get them to the goal that really matters and spending time with family. I don't think there's anything more rewarding than that.
Yeah. If you have a true plan, you have to understand, why am I saving money?
Mm-hmm.
One day, none of us are getting out of this thing alive. One day we're going to go to heaven, or whatever you believe. If you believe in life after death, you're not going to be here forever. So my purpose is, so what do we do while we're here? And how do I make sure that, every once in a while I have a client come in. Like, when I say every once in a while, I mean once every 5 years, like, so rarely, where their number one objective is to make sure that they pass on the maximum amount of wealth to their kids. Everybody else is not like that. Most people are not like that. They are like, listen, I help my kids do this, I help my kids do that. If there's anything left over, great. That's kind of the attitude. But the problem is, they're afraid to spend the money. So they're going to leave a big pile of cash. I don't want them to show up on my doorstep at 85 years old, say, God, we made it. We're probably got 5 more years. We're probably going to make it to our 90 or 95 maybe. But now we're old. Can't take the kids to Disney. Can't take the kids on a cruise. Can't take the wife, someplace, or do the things that we wanted to do. But we're going to leave a big pile of cash. Well, that's not true living. It's not true wealth.
Absolutely. Ken, this has been an absolutely amazing episode. Thank you for coming on it. I really appreciate you. And then I just want to know if you have any last minute advice for college students alike.
Well, first of all, go green, right?
Go white.
And then, just to push hard, network with as many people as you can. And, world is a small place, so be nice to everybody. Because you know what? Someday the guy that you never thought you were going to work with, you end up working with them in some capacity or bumping into them. So that would be my advice. And try to get grades are great and they're important, but the most important thing that you can do is keep developing yourself academically, but also socially, so that you can excel well in life. So that'd be my words of wisdom.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
If you enjoyed this discussion, please like and share the podcast on Apple and Spotify. The WMA podcast is part of Michigan State University's Wealth Management Association, a student organization whose goal is to inspire the next generation of financial advisors. Feel free to follow us on social media at MSU WMA and check out our website at msuwma.com. Anything heard on either the MSU WMA or Spartan Journal podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice.